Alamance Lutheran Church is located in the village of Alamance in central North Carolina. Today's Alamance Lutheran Church started organizing itself in the late 19th century. The people who worshiped together in this little mill town called themselves the Alamance Factory Sunday School. According to tradition, the Alamance Factory Sunday School worshiped together since July 29, 1881. Sometime in 1890, the Alamance Mill built its workers a wooden framed chapel. At that time, there was no connection to any denomination. However, local Lutheran and Methodist ministers took turns leading worship. In 1929, the mill owners John Schaffner and John Black decided to make the church an important part of their community. With the help of the president of the North Carolina Synod, they formed Alamance Lutheran Church on June 9, 1929. This year, Alamance celebrates its 90th anniversary. Since becoming a Lutheran church in 1929, Alamance has seen 9 pastors come through its little community of gathered believers. Pastor James Lockley is Alamance's 9th pastor, and in May of this year, he will have served the people of Alamance for 21 years. Nadine Sharp, pictured above, is the church's secretary, and the music director is Linda Jo Smith. Based on the 2008 official church reports, there are 233 members with an average worship attendance of 101. Over the last 10 years, Alamance Lutheran Church has had an average membership of 263 while having an average worship attendance of 117. Alamance Lutheran Church has a long and rich Sunday school tradition. Here are a few pictures of some of the classes. People of every age have an opportunity to be a part of a Sunday school class. The statistics, however, point to the reality facing Alamance. Their Sunday school program has seen a decrease in attendance over the past decade. The older adult groups have remained steady, while the younger generations have dwindled. This has been a result of job migration outside of their local community. This pie chart here shows the percentage breakdown of where congregants live in relation to the church. The majority of the congregation, 53%, lives more than 5 miles away from the church, while the smallest percentage, 1%, live 3 to 4 miles away from the church. Here is a map showing a 1-mile radius of the area surrounding the church. The anchor in the center represents Alamance, and each blue teardrop represents one household. There are 28 members, 14 households, who live within the mile radius. This map shows a 4-mile radius surrounding the church. It can be seen on this map how the majority of households are north of the Alamance Village. Well, one reason for this is because south of Alamance Village is farmland. As the map moves to show a 12-mile radius, it becomes evident that by far most people are commuting to Alamance from various points north and south along Interstate 4085. These areas along the interstate represent the townships in Alamance County that have had the greatest growth areas over the last decade. Now we turn to the age and gender makeup of the church. Alamance consists of 40% male and 60% female. 24% of the congregants are 70 and over, while only 4% are 30 to 39. And this percentage represents the future of Alamance Lutheran Church. Here is a breakdown of age and gender demographics. According to these statistics, the greatest percentage of members are females over 70, and the lowest percentage, 1%, are males 20 to 29, with males 30 to 39 consisting of 2%. Up until now, the only representatives of Alamance Lutheran Church have been numbers and symbols. We now will turn to the heart of the church, its people and its worship. There are 2 worship services, the early morning service at 8:30 and the later service at 11. At the heart of each service is the Eucharist. As a Lutheran church, it has experienced great stability in its order of worship. In the late 1970s, the congregation adopted the Lutheran Book of Worship with its updated inclusive language. With each Lutheran Book of Worship, the congregation adapted itself to this prescribed order of worship. Currently, Alamance continues to follow the Lutheran Book of Worship for its order of worship. However, one of the recent additions to this service is the celebration of the Eucharist every Sunday. For 15 years, the people of Alamance Lutheran Church have celebrated Holy Communion every Sunday. An important and unique tradition when celebrating the Eucharist is the use of a paten bearer. This is a child who assists the pastor in giving the elements to the congregants as they receive the body and blood along the altar. One of the strengths of the worship service is the inclusion of laity into various parts of the worship service. There is a typical choir in both services who participate every Sunday in singing a special hymn or praise song. The other people who participate in the worship service are those who read Scripture, the Old Testament lesson, and the epistle lesson. The worship assistant reads the responsive psalm. Alamance also incorporates the use of a worship assistant who plays a key role in the service. The assistant reads the prayers of intercession, prepares the table, assists the pastor with the servicing the body and blood, and gives the dismissal. The people who serve as worship assistant enjoy and embrace his or her role as assistant, which gives them a sense of investment in the worship service as well as the life of the congregation. We now turn to financial statistics. This chart shows the breakdown of pledges for the year 2009. Most members, 40%, have pledged to give as they are able, while 36% have pledged to give over $25 a week. The total pledge amount is about $76,000 under annual expenditures. There were 88 pledges made, and all were made jointly, and it is important to note that Lutherans are not allowed to raise money for church expenses. This chart shows the rising and falling of current expenses, building and improvements, ministerial support, benevolence, and total expenditures. Although there have been years of expansion and years of conservation, the charity of Alamance has remained relatively unchanged. This chart exemplifies the care that the building committee has taken each year to realistically project what the church can afford. The amount per capita is not an exorbitant amount to bear, considering the financial abilities of most of the members of the church. Now we turn back to the people of Alamance, specifically the unique and valuable programs of the church. There is not enough time to spend describing every program and its function. I will spend a little bit of time describing some unique and valuable programs. As one parishioner put it, everything we do seems to revolve around food. Alamance has an efficient group of people who provide important meals for important events. The first important event is the new members' meal. This meal serves as a welcoming feast for new members in the church, as well as an important time for others who might not worship with the new members to get to know them. Another important meal that Alamance provides is the meal after a funeral. Whether the funeral is held in the cemetery behind the church or at another cemetery in the area, the whole family is invited back to the church for a meal of love and comfort, where there are people in place to provide service to all who are gathered. Around the time of homecoming, the village of Alamance celebrates Plaid Days. This celebration seeks to remember the times when the mill was working and producing its unique style of plaid. Most of the functions for this village-wide celebration are held on church property. There's barbecue, line dancing, laughter, and plenty of people dressed in plaid. There are other churches in close proximity to Alamance Lutheran Church. Unfortunately, the First Baptist Church of Alamance does not do much to reach out to the other churches in the area. St. Paul Lutheran Church does have an amicable relationship with Alamance. In fact, St. Paul and Alamance and about 3 other churches get together once a month to have confirmation classes, and each pastor takes turns in presenting the lessons for that day. St. Paul has about 151 members with an average worship attendance of 65. For 2 years in 2005 and 6, they were without a pastor, but now they have a young pastor whose wife has given birth in the last year to their first child. Alamance Lutheran Church is located in Alamance County and in Cowell Township. According to Destination 2020, charting a course to Alamance County's future, a visioning plan adopted by the Board of County Commissioners, here are some demographical statistics of the church's community. There has been an increase of 22,587 people between 1990 and 2000 in the county, while the township increased its population by 159 people during this same period. During this decade, other townships have seen great increases in their population. Boone Township leads the way with a little over 4,000 people. Due to the recent increase of population in these townships, new housing developments and apartment complexes have cropped up within 3 miles of the church. This represents numerous possibilities to reach the people living in these developments. Alamance has wonderful facilities to provide for the community's use. There's a softball field, 2 worship areas, and a nice fellowship hall, and 19 acres of woodland. Based on my experience at Alamance and going over these statistics, I have 3 recommendations for Alamance Lutheran Church. The first is to move to 1 worship service. There is a small but steady trickle of new members, yet half the congregation does not know who they are. The choir in both services is small, as well as the general attendance. Going to 1 worship service would help unite the church and help create an atmosphere of hospitality and familiarity. The second suggestion coincides with the first. The slow trickle of new members contains people who are in the 20 to 40-year-old range, the future of Alamance. There needs to be a program that targets this age group. These new members only attend the worship service, and if Alamance wishes for more involvement, there needs to be a program in place to keep them involved in the life of the church. Something simple as Sunday school would be a great starting place. The final suggestion that I have for Alamance is to revive the softball league. Many long-term members talk fondly of the days of the softball league. Given today's economic state and the large numbers of younger people in the neighboring townships, having a softball league sponsored by the church on church property would be a great outreach program with the possibility of drawing more visitors to this wonderful community of gathered believers at Alamance Lutheran Church.